I was living in New York Temple, and one night these devotees from Atlanta knocked on the door, and they go, Prabhu, please accept my humble obeisances. Is Rupa Prabhu here? And in my mind, I'm thinking, meanwhile, I'm like this, I'm sort of like, I'm a new devotee, but I came from like a hippie kind of mentality. But it was very liberal, but I'm thinking, Southerners? We've converted Southerners? Wow! This has got to be the prime benediction for humanity at large. I mean, and then because of my, somehow or other, driving to Atlanta a few months later, and it's a long story, but I thought I was spending one night, and I ended up spending practically the rest of my life in the South. So, which I am now a Southerner by choice. But people always would say, you come from around. I could be going to their door with a shaved head and this tilak or mud on my forehead, wearing saffron cloth, and they didn't see that. All they heard was a New York accent. You ain't from around. You're a New Yorker. It's interesting. People maybe from other countries don't understand the differences between, the North and the South and different parts of the United States. But because of accents, you can, and there's different things from the past that affect our viewpoints of one another. But it's all superficial, because none of us are actually any of these material designations. We're all eternally a part of God, a part of Krishna. So I thought today, since it's the day before Janmastami, I'd like to speak a little bit about the spirit of Janmastami, so that we can enter into the spirit of Janmastami and really try to take full advantage of it and get the most benefit from it, and not let another year go by, because it is an extremely important day. And there's many levels to understanding it. First, I'd like to offer prayers to my spiritual master. Om Gyanti Marandasya Gyananjana Salakaya Tatso Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Gadhamayam Dati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Gadhaparakamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagadata Sahaganat Raganatam Vitam Satikam Sadvaitam Sadhutam Parijina Satita Krishna Chaitanya Deva. Hey Krishna Kadana Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagapate Gopisha Holika Anta Radha Anta Namostate Tapta Kanchana Morangi Radhe Vrindavaneshware Vishnu Devi Pranamani Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripasanubheva Atitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare. So Janmastami, for those of you who don't know, is the appearance 5,000 years ago of Krishna, the original personality of Godhead, the cause of all causes. He's the creator, the father of existence. And someone may say, well, and we say all the time philosophically, well, God is everywhere. So he's in our hearts. He's in the atoms. In between the atoms, he's in the hearts of the trees and all the different living entities. God is spread out throughout the entire existence. So what's so important about this particular appearance 5,000 years ago? And if he's God, God is not created. He's unborn. How is the unborn born? And what is the significance of all of this? So these are they're paradoxical. If in philosophy, a paradox is apparent opposing ideas that are actually compatible. So I picked out a verse from the Bhagavad Gita that has a purport that describes some of the opening scene of Krishna's appearance, and it's in the universal form chapter. Krishna, this is the Bhagavad Gita, is the song of God, and he's speaking it to Arjuna, and it's right before a huge battle to determine whether the virtuous or the unvirtuous will rule the planet. And Krishna is a friend and a devotee of Arjuna, and he became really depressed, very morose. Because, that's the nature of this material world. There's so much suffering here. And it's not, because we identify with the temporary, the idea, the principal philosophy of Krishna consciousness is, the basic thing to understand is, you are not the body. You are an eternal particle of God. It's 1/10,000th the tip of a hair. But we actually have the same quality as God. And we have chosen to come into the material world and try to live separately from God. And in one sense, what you can say is, the material world is the prison house of creation. And I will ask everyone, please, if they, especially people in authority, that you turn off your phones or any other devices, and because I promise you, you will not stop existing, and life will go on without your phone. You will continue to exist, and all the information will be stored in the phone. And it's very, very crucial, you know it. So we're in the prison house. And so in one sense, for Krishna to come to the material world is a very kind act. Like, just say if you were a parent, or some of you are parents, and just say, for instance, your child may have made some mistake, and they find themselves in prison. Your love is unconditional. And so you'll go and visit them and see how they are. You want to make sure that they get everything they need, and do whatever you can to help them while they're going through this situation. So Krishna feels the same way about, we're the fallen souls. We fell into the inferior energy of God. We actually come from the spiritual sky, which is, everyone is eternally youthful, eternally blissful. There's no war, there's no anxiety, there's no hatred, there's no greed, there's no lust, envy, coveting. There's no fear. And it actually exists, and we are part of that. We belong there. For some reason, we decided to try something else for a while, and so we got to come here to this material world and try to be the supreme enjoyer or the supreme proprietor without God. And so we're still dependent on God for everything. We're dependent, every breath I take is coming from God. The light of the sun, the moon, the taste of water. Nothing quenches the thirst like water. That is not a creation of man. That is a creation of God. So even while we're trying to pretend like we can exist without Him, we're actually completely dependent on Him. And so, in an unjudgmental way, He decides to descend to the material world over, on a regulated, very long period of time, according to our calculations. But the most recent incarnation of Krishna was 5,000 years ago. And so, this one verse, in the Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna is questioning, why should I fight a war against people that I consider my teachers, my friends, my cousins, and just so I can gain the control of the kingdom. And by doing this, I'll be incurring sin. It's like Jesus Christ said, what profit the man who gains the whole world and then loses his soul? So Arjuna is already showing that he is a perfect Christian. He's not willing to fight a battle that might cause a chain reaction of suffering and degradation, a lack of protection for the priestly class, for the women, for the mothers, and for the children, because there'll be so much death and destruction. Just so I can be, and me and my brothers can be the kings, the emperors. I don't want it. And he's really morose, he's really depressed. And Krishna's, giving him a spiritual counseling. And he's just shown, in the universal form, he's just shown Arjuna that he is this entire creation. This is an amazing form of the Lord. He saw that everything around us is Krishna. And he saw that the past, the present, and the future. And he saw that everyone here is already dead. Once you're born, you're issued a death certificate. No one is, as they say, gets out of here alive. This is the way it is. We all, despite all the medical and research, the death rate is still exactly the same as it was 50 or 100 years ago. Do you know what it is?
100%.
100%. Everyone who's born dies. You can't change that. But there is no death, because the soul is eternal. It's simply you move on based on your karma and your desires. Karma means your activity. So he's just seen this tremendous universal form of Krishna, and Krishna is everywhere. And Arjuna's like, please, just let me see the original form. And so I won't read the Sanskrit, but this is text 53 in chapter 11. He says, the form you are seeing, this is Krishna speaking to Arjuna, the form you are seeing with your transcendental eyes cannot be understood simply by the Vedas, which is scripture, nor by undergoing severe penances, nor by charity, nor by worship. It is not by these means that one can see me as I am. And the purport to this is a short one. It says, Krishna first appeared before his parents, Devaki and Vasudeva, in a four-handed form, and then he transformed himself into the two-handed form. This mystery is very difficult to understand for those who are atheists, or who are devoid of devotional service. For scholars who have simply studied Vedic literature by way of grammatical knowledge, or mere academic qualifications, Krishna is not possible to understand. Nor is he to be understood by persons who officially go to the temple to offer worship. They make their visit, but they cannot understand Krishna as he is. Krishna can be understood only through the path of devotional service, as explained by Krishna himself in the next verse, which is, my dear Arjuna, only by undivided devotional service can I be understood, as I am, standing before you, and can thus be seen directly. Only in this way can you enter into the mysteries of my understanding. Now, the reason I read this particular verse is because I want to set the scene, and I don't want to take up much of your time. For those of you who don't understand, I apologize, but I'll try to make it as clear as possible. What has happened is, before Krishna appears, his parents, Vasudeva and Devaki, on their wedding day, they've just gotten married, and the custom was that the brother of the bride would take her and the husband on a chariot with all of the, the dowry. And it was very, very opulent in those days. I mean, hundreds, thousands of horses, elephants, so many. And as they're going, this is the happiest day of her life. And all of a sudden there's a voice an unembodied voice that says, Kamsa, who is the brother, Kamsa, you are such a fool. You do not know that the 8th child born of Vasudeva and Devaki is coming to kill you. He may not have said it quite like that. He may have said it more saintly, but it's a dramatic thing. So, and he immediately. Now, Devaki and Vasudeva are very virtuous people, but her brother Kamsa is known as he's not a very nice guy. You would basically say that he's an atheist in a sense, but he knows that who Krishna is and who God is, but he thinks that he can kill him. He actually thinks that is a possibility. So he immediately grabs for a sword and wants to kill his sister. And Vasudeva, no, wait, stop, please, no, not on the wedding day. And who is that voice? You don't know who that voice is. You don't know if it's going to happen. And anyway, it said it's the 8th child. Well, you don't even know if we'll have any children at all. But if we do, I promise to turn them over to you. But please don't, on this auspicious day of your sister's wedding, please don't do this heinous act of killing them just because of some, voice in the sky. Who is that? Could be anybody. So he reasons with him in so many different philosophical ways. A very expert. And Kamsa has a lot of respect for Vasudeva. Now, Vasudeva, by the way, is the son of a king, Surasena. And he's a very powerful man. So Kamsa says, all right, I won't kill him. And he believes Vasudeva's word. He takes Vasudeva at his word. He trusts him. But he does imprison him. He put their wedding night. This is the happiest moment of a woman's life. Is their wedding night, or of any man, woman. The most important part of this union. You just got married. Your wedding night. Now you're in prison. And it's a very frightening situation and not very comfortable. So after some time, she does become pregnant. And for 9 months, she carries that first baby. And for a woman, my wife had a baby. For men, it's also, the women are physically and mentally going through it. But men, they go through it as well. Seeing, how much their wives are how much pain they're experiencing, how much discomfort they're experiencing. You're in so much anxiety that you'll be able to provide properly for them, to take care of them. So they're both in a lot of anxiety. And now they have the added pressure that there's a possibility that Kamsa, their brother or brother-in-law, may actually take this child and kill it. So, anyway, finally, after having going through the pregnancy, the baby is born. And then Vasudeva, true to his word, turns the child over to Kamsa. Now, the reason I'm telling you this is because I feel that to truly understand what Janmastami is, it's not like just like Christians complain about, they commercialize the birth of Christ. And then you can see there's some similarities in the sense that Christ went through a lot of, his parents went through a lot of, the king was out to kill any newly born baby. Yet he also heard a prophecy. It's very similar. And to understand, this is not just another, historical celebration, and we come and we get benedictions from God. If you come to the temple with the mood that I'm praying for this benediction, and that's why I'm coming, to take, ask Krishna for something, that's what you'll get. Or if you're coming just because you're afraid people will talk, why haven't you come? So then that's what you'll get. People won't talk about you. But if you come in the proper mood, and if you try to, in the proper mood, I can't say that I have it, but I'm trying to understand the mood of what Devaki and Vasudeva were experiencing. I'm trying to see it through their eyes, because they were serving Krishna to help facilitate the prophecy that Krishna would come to protect Paritranaya Sadhunam, protect the devotees, and to annihilate the demonic. So he turns over the first son to Kamsa, and Kamsa appreciates it, and then he says, well, actually, it's not the first one, it was the 8th one. So, here, you take him, you take the son, and it's a son. So he takes the son and turns it back over. And so they're feeling good. Well, maybe he'll be all right. We can have our son. And then, Kamsa goes home, and then his friends start talking to him and say, what, are you crazy? You don't know. This Vishnu, this Krishna is very powerful, it's very tricky. You don't know. He could be the one. You can't trust him. He's very powerful. Look what he's done to all the other other fellow atheists. So the next morning he comes back in, grabs the baby right in front of her, and kills her son. Do you know what that must be like for her? You know how much pain that was? How much pain the father and the mother were experiencing to see that. So, time goes by, and it's not that you can't, you have to understand Devaki and Vasudeva are very advanced souls. It's not like they just couldn't control their senses, and therefore, they immediately had to have another child. No, they knew that this was their service to Krishna, to help fulfill the prophecy, that he was coming to eliminate the burden on the earth of all of these unqualified leaders who are exploiting the earth and the citizens for their own sense gratification, instead of establishing virtuous God-conscious principles. So they have a second child, and this time he doesn't wait. He immediately kills another one right in front of him. And they're having to live in that cell while this is going on. Again, and again, and again. Not because they just can't control their senses. No, because they're doing it because it's their service to Krishna. But don't think that they don't suffer. There is a lot of suffering. Just imagine what it must be like. But that they are willing to do to please the Supreme Personality of God. We're talking about the source, I should say. I say sauce. My granddaughter pointed that out, that I say sauce instead of source. The source of existence, Krishna, who provides us all with everything, and who can bring us back home to our rightful place in the spiritual world. So finally, it gets to the point where the 7th child is transferred from the womb of Devaki over to one of Vasudeva's other wives in Vrindavan. And that is the brother of Krishna Balaram. It's a very long story. I'm going to try to make this sort of a Reader's Digest version. So finally, 8 days later, Janmastami, Astami means 8 days after the full moon. So Balaram appeared on the full moon, and then 8 days later, Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, appears in a 4-armed form, wearing a crown, necklaces, golden necklaces, beautiful flower garlands, bracelets and beautiful decorations, and standing there, flashing his effulgence around the room. And they're just amazed. It's, Krishna, the forearm of Vishnu, the forearm form of Vishnu. And they're so, just completely overwhelmed with, bliss and offering respect that they're afraid for his life. I mean, you can't kill Krishna. He said, please, Kamsa is going to try to kill you. Please take your two-handed form. So he immediately assumes the two-handed form of Krishna. And so they don't even get a chance to spend one night. After all those years of watching their children being killed, they didn't get one night with their son. The plan was, they're locked up, but Krishna orders Vasudeva, and it's a really bad storm. And that's why I think actually all this rain is a good, like this morning, I was thinking, when we came over this morning to do our services here, we had no electricity. And we just had some candles. And I was saying, this is really a good warm-up for understanding the mood of Janmastami. To try to do your service with no electricity, everything's dark, with a few candle lights. We didn't even know where the candles were. No water even. And then finally, just by putting everything aside, all of a sudden, magically, the lights were on again. So, but it was nothing. And I mean, by the way, as spoiled Westerners, a little bit of this inconvenience. If I turn on the switch and the electricity doesn't come on, the light doesn't come on, or the air conditioner doesn't come on, I'm really perturbed. Excuse me, I pay my bills. I expect this to happen. Instant gratification is my motto. So, and there was nothing. We had to do our service in the dark. And we were all dripping wet. It was pouring rain. But we did it. We got through it. So, it's just a little taste. Just a taste of what they went through. So, Krishna orders Vasudeva to take him, and at night, all of a sudden, all the guards fall asleep, all the locks become unlocked, and they're able to leave the prison, and Vasudeva brings him to a village called Vrindavan, and his stepbrother Nanda Maharaj lives there. And so Nanda Maharaj's wife had just had a baby girl, but she was so tired after the experience of having the child that she fell asleep and she didn't know if it was a boy or a girl. So he exchanges Krishna for Subhadra, the sister. And Vasudeva brings Subhadra back to his cell. And so they didn't get a chance to be with Krishna at all, even after doing all that service. But the point is that this set into action, or that Krishna now was prepared to perform his pastimes that are today, to this day, people relish hearing and relish repeating and talking about. They attract our minds and hearts to Krishna, so that we then do see Krishna everywhere, that we see him in everything. And we actually develop that kind of love. Because I was talking about how Devaki was feeling. Just imagine how Vasudeva was thinking. Vasudeva seeing, 6 male children killed. I mean, a male son is very important, especially in those days. At any time, this is very, and they were all killed. He had to tolerate this. So they were willing to do this because this was their part to play in this play, this Leela, that Krishna came to this world to establish the religious principles that we all need in human society. That he speaks the Bhagavad Gita, he has his childhood pastimes, he's lifting the Govardhan hill, he's killing all these very powerful demonic forces, and these are all historical facts. And I say that because, just based on belief. I say this because we receive our knowledge through a disciplic succession of bona fide spiritual masters who are all perfect, realized souls, virtuous and true. And this knowledge has been passed down from one guru to the next over the past 5,000 years. And we have this information. And by studying these pastimes and by meditating on the personality of Godhead Krishna and meditating on what it takes to really fully surrender to God. I'm not saying that everybody has to go through what Devaki and Vasudeva went through. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is, though, that in the West, our idea is that God is our order supplier. We pray to God to give us our daily bread. And He does. But the real love means, what can I do for you? How can I serve you? I mean, really, what can you offer God? And you know what? The only thing He wants is our love. Now, how to develop that love, we can learn from these pastimes and by studying these books. Because right now, we have come down into this material universe, and it's like, when you're in, when you're in high school or something. I don't know about in India, but in America, when you're in high school, especially when puberty hits and things, all of a sudden there's a certain stratas depending on how much money you have, or whether you're good in sports, or how good looking you are. There's different, the cool kids and the not so cool kids, and so, but everybody wants to be, in sort of what we used to call the in crowd, So, but in creation, where we are, this is loser loka. This is not, loka means place. We are not the most beautiful people in the creation. We are not having the most pleasure in the creation. The most pleasure is happening outside of this material world. And there is a process by chanting the Hare Krishna mantra and by studying these books in the society of other devotees so that at the time of death you can be transferred to the spiritual sky. So the mantra goes something like this: Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. And Krishna is so kind that He comes down to save us, even though we're not really trying. He comes down to the prison house and shows us what we're missing out on. And His pastimes are there in the scriptures, these beautiful pastimes, loving pastimes, with His friends, with the cows, with His parents, and all of these beautiful, wonderful, loving pastimes, with no inebrities, no, jealousies, no envy. Everybody is eternally full of bliss. Everyone is actually friends, loving friends, based on our relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna. So we're asking everyone to take advantage of this process of chanting Hare Krishna and try to understand the mood of Janmastami, and take advantage of this temple. It's here for you. And so then someday, when you come here, you won't just see a marble statue, but you'll actually see the Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna. I actually sat next to the founder Acharya, His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. He came to America back in 1965. And he was 70 years old, on a freighter with 40 rupees, which is worth nothing. We couldn't exchange it if he wanted. And 3 cases of books. He didn't know anyone in America. He didn't know anything about America. He thought maybe everybody just eats meat. He thought it was, he says, I'm an old man with no money from a poor country, and I don't know anyone. Why will anyone listen to me? And I'm going to ask them to give up eating meat, stop having illicit sex, stop drinking wine or intoxication, no gambling, and sit down and sing Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. He said, it's impossible, but I'll try it anyway. Let me try it. And we're so grateful that he did. The reason why we say this mantra is because God is not different from his name. What does it say in the Bible? In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was God. So in the transcendental realm, the name and the named are the same. Whereas right now I'm thirsty, and if I say water, 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 I won't quench my thirst. But if I say Krishna, 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 I'm actually associating to the extent that I can, as purely chant, I will begin to associate with the Supreme. Krishna is non-different from that sound vibration. The sound vibration is a transcendental sound vibration. Right now, God is invisible to us. But it's like saying the sun is invisible because there's a cloud over it. The sun is there, but right now it's covered by a cloud. As soon as you remove the cloud, you can see the sun. So we are covered over by material desires, material identification. And by this process, we become uncovered, we clear away the material desires, we clear away our material identification, and we see Krishna. I sat right next to Srila Prabhupada once in Atlanta, and he was looking at two of the deities, and he very rarely did this. He never never said, I see God, or God talks to me. He says, anybody could say that. And how would you know? How would you know? I could tell you anything. He never said that, but sometimes he would show you that he couldn't control his ecstasy. And he saw these deities, like over here, Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda. And he was looking at them, and you could see that he wasn't seeing a statue. And he said, the same Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda, who appeared 500 years ago in Bengal, India, they're standing right here on your altar. And as he's saying it, tears were shooting out of his eyes. He was seeing this form of God. It is possible in this life to actually see God. And this is not contradictory to any of the other bona fide religious traditions. If you study this, you'll find that this Krishna conscious movement, this is not a sectarian religion, it's a process. It's called Bhakti Yoga, to connect with God through love and devotion. You can still have a relationship with Jesus Christ, or with Muhammad, or with Buddha. You can still have those bona fide relationships. And as a matter of fact, they will increase your relationship with them. It'll become more complete, and you'll find yourself becoming more, less distracted by all of the unnecessary so-called absolute needs. I must have the latest smartphone. I must have a television in every room. I must have this latest gadget. You'll become more and more self-satisfied, because our satisfaction isn't derived from something external. Our satisfaction is internal, because we are not a product of matter. We are anti-matter. We are spiritual. And this is a process for reconnecting with your source of the spiritual energy. So anyway, I think maybe it's time for prasadam, or any questions or comments or something? Yes?
Really quickly, I did it. I mean, I know everything you said is true, but how was it possible that Lord Krishna was born only a week or two after Balaram?
Oh yeah. Well, yeah. So Balaram appeared to be like a miscarriage, and he was. Krishna asked Yogamaya, the internal energy, to transfer Balaram into Rohini's womb. Rohini is Vasudev's wife. He had two wives, and she was staying with Nanda Maharaj. Nanda Maharaj was his stepbrother. They were related, but Surasena had two wives. One was a Kshatriya woman, and the other was a Vaishya woman. Vasudev was the son of the Kshatriya, and Nanda Maharaj was from the Vaishya. So Rohini was staying there, so Balaram was transferred into the womb of Rohini, set 8 days prior. Then Krishna comes into the mind of Vasudeva, into his heart, and then transferred to the heart of Devaki. 8 days later he appears. He doesn't appear in the normal way of birth. He's God. Immaculate conception. I mean, I'm raised a Roman Catholic. I totally understand this principle. I find it very strange that some Christians don't put much emphasis on Mother Mary. She's immaculate conception. God can do anything. God has many incarnations, and I don't want to get too far out for some of you, but there's a form of Krishna called Shringadev. He's half lion, half man. And he was born out of a pillar, a marble pillar. He just burst open out of the pillar because he wanted to kill this demon to protect his devotee. God can appear anywhere at any time, whenever he wants, however he wants. He's God. And we're not. And my wife constantly reminds me. So anyway, anything else? And by the way, so this is a very important day. We have Titiraj's daughter is now, is she still here? Or she had to leave? This is her birthday. There she is, Radhika, who's off in the corner. And we have a big cake for her outside. And he sponsored the feast for everyone today.
Right.
And we have another very important personality here. He's one of my godbrothers. We call him the Rose Man. Because when he comes, he brings hundreds of dollars, thousands of dollars of roses every year.
So has the distinction of being Srila Prabhupada's first Bengali disciple, possibly first Indian disciple.
And he was a college
second Indian disciple because he initiated one before coming to America. But Asok became his first Indian disciple. Back in when? 1972. 1972.
And he was studying in college at the time. He was a college student. He was not, he was educated. He's lived in America for many years and had a very successful career here in America. And Tirtharaj has been very much inspired by Ashok's example. And he's also now a professor at Central Florida University, and he teaches something to do with computers, I don't know.
Tirtharaj was a wonderful.
He's amazing. And while he was a student, he started a program in the sort of student ghetto, and there are a lot of Indian Americans who come over, and they're sort of the cream of the crop in India, and they're doing their master's or PhD or postdoc. And when they come to America, they may not have been religious before, but when they come here, the energy in America is very intense for them. So they find chanting the Hare Krishna mantra it calms them down. Because you're associating with God through sound vibration. what is the prayer? Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy king. Hallowed, holy is thy name. Any name of God that is a bona fide name of God, you can chant. But we suggest the Hare Krishna, Hare Rama mantra. That is the most potent. But you can chant any name of God. That's all we're asking. And if the mantra's free, it doesn't cost you anything. I remember I used to go door to door, and there was a lot of these yogis back in the late 60s, early 70s coming in from India, selling mantras. And it's you have to pay for it. And sometimes it would just like a syllable of the Gayatri mantra or something like that, Aim or something like that. But there was one that was I found out that he was selling Soham, which is what Krishna, I think isn't that what Krishna meditates? I am he, I am. So I said to them, oh, I think I know what your mantra is. Is it Soham? How'd you know? Did you pay too? No. I got a better mantra for you, it's free. Anyway, so the prasadam is ready, is it? Yes. And so tomorrow's going to be an even better day, this is the actual day that Krishna came into the prison cell 5,000 years ago, approximately. And it's when you understand that he appears once in a day of Brahma. Now, how many years is Brahma? What is a day of Brahma? Here's one of our
9 billion.
That the day? The day is a billion? Or
9.
9 billion.
Something like that.
In our years. Brahma is the top person in the universe. He creates the universe under Krishna's control. And Krishna empowers him. And his lifetime is, there's a story where this one king his daughter had 3 demands for a husband. He had to be handsome, he had to be, I can't remember the second, very strong, and he had to be eternal. Pretty hard demand. So the father goes, and he's then on the earth planet. So he goes up to see Lord Brahma. And Lord Brahma, there's an apsara, or it's like a dancing, a heavenly dancing girl, and she's singing a very beautiful melody and performing for Lord Brahma. And it appears to be 15 or 20 minutes. And he's going to ask Lord Brahma, can you help me arrange for a husband for my daughter? And so Brahma says, sure, just wait till she's finished singing. So it appears to be like 15, 20 minutes to him. And so then he says, so now how can I help you? He says, well, my daughter, Lisa, she wants this and that. And I was hoping, you could help me in this regard. He said, well, sure, but the problem is that, it may seem like you've only been here a short time, but actually down on the earth, it's been, several centuries have passed. And your palace is gone, your entire family is gone. That's how long you've been here. But then he says, there's one good thing, that's the bad news. The good thing is, though, Krishna and Balaram are about to appear on the earth. So we can work that out, and she can marry Balaram. And then she gets to have Balaram, the brother of Krishna, as the... So that shows you that, like on the moon planet, our scientists are telling us that it's a vacant place. Well, we disagree. According to Shastra, we're receiving descending knowledge. It's deductive. It means, like, if I say man is mortal, then I'm accepting that from an authority, and I don't have to go around on the inductive process or ascending knowledge. I would have to go around to every man in the world to see if anybody is maybe not dying. But if I accept it from an authority, the descending process, then I know man is mortal. And we understand that the entire creation is inhabited. There is no void. As a matter of fact, even our founding fathers, like Benjamin Franklin and Thomas Jefferson, they all believed that there was life on another planet. They thought it was the height of arrogance to think that we're the only ones that God created. So on the moon planet, it's a heavenly planet, and their one day equals 6 months of our time. So, and as you go up, there's very heavenly planets above us. But they're also temporary. And beyond those heavenly planets is the Vaikuntha world, which is eternal. Which is that's where we want to go. That's where we came from. It's possible. I know it sounds like science fiction or whatever, but there's philosophy behind this. I'm not the most expert scholar, but you can't just get there through philosophy or just hearing someone like you study these books. Don't just read them. You study them, you discuss them with other devotees, and you chant these mantras, and you will have what you call a realization. Oh, I see. I get it. And I'll tell you one thing is, as you grow older, when the idea that I'm not this material body, because at one point I had my body was younger, and I was a very successful athlete, a successful athletic career, amateur. Oh, Haribo.
Hey, Haribo.
I haven't seen you in a long time. I was wondering where you've been. There's our old friend. Calamity, yeah. Now I have trouble walking, I mean, I was the best in New York State in certain sprints and track, and, so at this point in my life, at that point, it seemed sort of philosophically true that, I'm going to grow old, and I'll get diseases, and I'll die. But, it seemed like intellectually I can understand that. But when you're young, you think like, I'm invincible. I mean, I got plenty of time. You don't. I mean, it goes by like, whew. Am I right? It's like, where did it go? I mean, especially once you pass 35, time really starts flying by. And at this point, I'm glad I'm not this body. I'll tell you that. Yeah. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Can we turn our phone back on now?
Yeah, I think it's okay. Yeah, it's okay. And I wasn't saying what I thought I was going to say. That is when we start to talk, and get the